ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. So this lesson we are going to continue discussing miscellaneous words and their rules in terms of nouns. We finished last time by discussing numbers and how they will appear, the i'rabs, how they would appear in terms of i'rab last time. Now we are going to discuss the rules on tadhkir or ta'nith, that means masculine and feminine nouns. We've already been exposed to these types of nouns, but here we are just going to fine-tune some of the definitions and provide a bit more information about tadhkir and ta'nith. So, generally, a feminine word in Arabic, which is known as mu'annath, and ta'nith is the action of making something feminine, or to be feminine. And mu'annath is a word which is feminine. So they can have a sign which visibly demonstrates that they are feminine. For example, the ta of femininity, or ta marbuta, when you see this at the end of a word, then it indicates that that word is feminine. So they could be feminine. So words can be feminine because of the visible sign, or they can be feminine, assumed feminine, maybe because of their meaning. If they do not fall into these categories, then they will be masculine, mudhakkar. And there are different signs of femininity. For example, ta marbuta, when it occurs at the end of a word, alif maqsura and alif mamduda. So alif maqsura was when there is an alif at the end of a word which does not have a hamza after it. For example, hubla. And alif mamduda is when there is a hamza after the alif. So mamduda just means to be stretched, and maqsura means to be shortened. The reason is because when there's an alif mad and after is a hamza, then it's stretched even more. So, for example, hamra'u, that's feminine. And we already discussed alif mamduda and alif maqsura in ghayr munsarif when we said they were equivalent to two causes. So when and there, so there, we also said that there are words which have femininity assumed within them, and this femininity which is assumed within them will only be assumed that there is a ta marbuta there, a small ta there, and this can be identified through the conversion of a word into its tasghir form. For example, you have the word ardun, which means earth, and we know through usage that its tasghir, which means its diminutive form, is uraydatun, which means small earth, and darun, which means house, and is also feminine because the diminutive form is duwaira, and this is something which you could only learn through studying or usage of the language. You will not have a tasghir form which ends in alif mamduda, alif maksura, and therefore that shows that its normal form is mu'annath. This only works with the ta of femininity. So you could further divide feminine nouns into those which are true haqiqi, true feminine nouns. These are those words that have masculine animals as their opposites. For example, the word woman or imra'atun has a masculine opposite, which is rajulun. And you have the word naqatun, which means camel. It also has its masculine counterpart. If it has no masculine opposite, then you'll consider it feminine figuratively, majazi. So this is something embedded within the Arabic language, majaz, which just means a figurative or metaphorical understanding. There is a bit of dispute regarding the place of majaz in aqidah theology. However, through the study of language, you'll find that majaz is something which is integrated into the Arabic language. For example, the word dhulmatun, it's feminine. It means darkness. What about darkness is feminine? It's just because we will consider it because it's not literal. It's because it's not a true feminine word, because it doesn't have a feminine, a masculine counterpart, it will be considered feminine figuratively. Similar to this is ainun, which can mean many things, such as eye, as in the eyes we see with, but it can also mean spring of water. This word is also feminine, though there is no masculine counterpart. For example, you do not have a masculine spring; you just have a spring, some water which is described as a spring, and this is feminine, if it considered feminine figuratively. And then we have already discussed, like I've said and mentioned, the rules of ta'nith in terms of verbs. I would recommend going back to that section to check. But the next discussion is al-muthanna or tathniya, which just means the dual form. It's a noun which is dual. So it's interesting because in English we do not have a word construction which shows that a word is dual. Rather, we just say two and then we say the noun after it, like two men, and we use the plural form. So instead of saying two men, we say two men or two women. So they're followed by the plural form of the word. However, in Arabic, there's a way of expressing the dual form through the letters themselves. And we've already discussed their appearance in the different states when we were going right in the beginning of these sessions. When we discussed that there are 9 different appearances of words in Arabic in terms of their ahwal, their states. And muthanna, just a reminder, when it's marfu', when it's nominative, then it's represented by an alif, and when it's which is preceded by a fatha. And when it's mansub or majrur, it's represented by ya, preceded by a fatha as well. For example, rajulani, or in the nominative in the marfu' case, and rajulaini in the genitive or accusative case, halatul jar and halatul nasb. This noon is dropped, as you might recall, when the word is made mudaf. For example, kitaba rajulin, the 2 books of a man. So there are some interesting rules regarding this word, because what if the word is ends with an alif maksura? It's a maksur noun, sorry. So it ends with the alif already, like asa. So then what happens in this case is that the alif at the end will return to the letter it was originally when made dual. For example, asa was actually asaw with a waw, asawa, or asawun, and then that waw was changed to an alif because it was preceded by a fatha, so it became asa. But when we make it dual, that waw will return, and then you'll add the alif after it, and it will become asawani or asawaini. If the alif was originally a ya though, or it wasn't converted from anything, so the alif was always an alif, then it will become a ya. For example, rahayan, so raha, which means handmill, and rahaya was the original, it becomes rahayan. Or you have the word hubara, which is a type of bird, which means bustards. This will become hubarayani. And you have the word like malha, which means place of amusement, which was there was originally ya there, so it's malhayun, and it'll become malhayani. The ya will return. So this is when it's alif maksur. Where if it's ism mamdud, so there's a hamza after the alif, then the hamza will remain if it is an asli hamza. This means that the hamza wasn't placed at the end of the word because of some rule based on sarf, which is morphology. So because of some letter construction, or word construction, to make it easier to say or utter, the hamza wasn't changed. The word letter wasn't changed from a wa or ya or an alif to a hamza. Rather, the hamza in this case was always there. For example, the word qurra'un, which means reciter, this will become qurra'ani if the hamza is there because of ta'nith. So we've already discussed this, that alif mamduda can represent ta'nith, So it will the alif will change to a waw. For example, in the word hamra'un, hamra'u, which means red, feminine, it will become hamrawani. The hamza will change to a waw. So two red things. If the hamza was originally a waw or a ya, so this is different to the previous point, because in the previous point the hamza was originally there, or the hamza was there because of the anif. So you converted a masculine word to a feminine word by putting on the pattern of fa'ala'u. Here instead the hamza was actually a waw or a ya originally. Then you can either change it to a waw or a ya, and you can also leave it as a hamza. For example, the word rida'un, which means cloak, can become rida'wani or rida'ani. So it will change to whatever it was originally. So here, rida'un was actually rida'un, and then it changed to a hamza and became rida'un. And because it was a waw originally, it changed to a waw. If the word was originally if the hamza was originally a ya, then it would have changed to a ya. And then we have al-majmu' or jama', which means plural. So you can have there's different ways of making something a plural word in Arabic, as we've already come across, in fact. So we've said jama' mudhakkar salim or jama' muannas salim. We said they were the sound plural nouns, and then we had jama' mukassar, the broken plural nouns. The sound plural nouns fell upon a specific pattern, and the broken ones had their own patterns as well, but not the ones based on convention. So plurals can be lafzi. This is when letters are added, or they can be taqdiri, estimated or assumed. This is when letters do not actually change. So if we give an example of a lafzi plural, it's like the plural of rajulun, which we've become acquainted with now, which means a man. The plural of rajulun is rijalun. So you note how letters have been added to rajulun to make it plural. Similar to in Arabic, to English, when you add the letter s, so instead of saying plural, you could say plurals. So we added the letter s to make it a plural. There are certain words in English, however, which do not change or do not have any letters added to them when they are made plural. For example, the word sheep, it's the singular and the plural is the same. So in Arabic, you also have something similar. For example, the word fulkun. So you have, for example, the word fulkun, which is on the pattern of ustun. Its singular form and its plural form are the same. So the change is assumed, imagined. It's not literal. So in Arabic, because we have scales and we have conventions and structures, you'll say fulkun when it is singular, it is on the pattern of kuflun, and kuflun is singular. And if it's plural form, which is also fulkun, it will be assumed to be on the pattern of usdun, which is the plural of asadun, lion. You do have certain words which indicate a large amount of things. For example, qawmun, which means people or a nation, or rahatun, which means like a tribe. They indicate towards several things. However, the words themselves won't be considered plural because they do not have any singular forms in the Arabic language. But you do have the plural of qawm, which is aqwam, nations. And then you can also, so we've already discussed this, but plurals, like we've said, are divided in terms of their letters and wording. So they could be sahih or they could be mukassar. They could be sound plurals or broken plurals. Sound plurals are sound when they maintain their structure. They maintain the structure of their singular form rather. So this means that their singular form isn't disturbed. For example, the word muslimun is singular, which means one Muslim, and muslimuna, you'll notice that Muslim is still present within muslimuna. The word Muslim hasn't been disturbed, rather the waw and noon have been added. and this is the masculine form. And then you have the feminine, muslimat. It's also in the word Muslim is preserved, and you just add alif and ta to make it feminine plural. In broken plural, the words, the structure of the words alter. And as we've said, rajulun becomes rijal, so the word rajul, its construction has been disturbed to make it plural. So just a little rule about the sound plural for the masculine. So Jama Mudhakkar Salim. So if there's a word, if you want to make a name plural, then it must be a proper name of a male, which doesn't end with ta of ta'nith like Talha. So you can't say Talhatuna. So that cannot be made masculine on this pattern. It has to be a name like Zaydun, and you can say Zayduna, because it does not end with ta ta'nith. If the word is a sifa, describing word and adjective, and you want to make it on the pattern of Jama Mudhakkar Salim, the sound plural masculine, it cannot be on the pattern of af'alu, which is wazn fi'l, or fa'ala'u, or fa'lani, or fa'la. It cannot also be from words that have the same pattern for masculine and feminine words. So if the word has, if the pattern of the word is such that that a masculine, it can used to be, the pattern can be used to indicate a feminine word or a masculine word, then this pattern cannot be placed on the Jama Mudhakkar Salim scale. And also, as we are probably already aware, when sound plurals are made mudaf, then the noon is also omitted. And then we have some more interesting scenarios. So if there's an ismu manqus, as we've said, like it ends with a alif. Ismu manqus ends with a ya. For example, the word qadi. How would we make that on the pattern of Jama Mudhakkar Salim? So if it ends with a ya and before it's a kasra, then the ya will be omitted. So you'll get rid of the ya when it's made plural. So for example, so the word qadi will become qaduna. So if it's maqsur, so it ends with alif, like Mustafa, the alif is omitted, but the letter before will keep its fatha to show that there was an alif there before, which has now been removed. For example, Mustafawna is the plural of Mustafa. So it's Mustafa Yuna, and then Mustafa it's Mustafa Yu, which becomes Mustafa, and then you can't just add the waw noon and say Mustafauna. You just get rid of the alif, but the fatha on the letter before the alif remains. So this is the fa, so it will be Mustafauna. Then we have Jama' Mu'annath Salim. Very simple. If the word, we just add an alif and a big ta. If the word is a sifa, and then its masculine equivalent should have a plural form, which ends with a wow. So its plural form isn't a block. So if it's a sifa and you want to make it feminine, then its masculine counterpart cannot have a broken plural. It should have a normal Jama' Mudhakkar Salim. If there is no masculine counterpart, then it must have a ta ta'nith to be put on the pattern of Jama' Muannath Salim. So for example, the word ha'id or hamil cannot be put on this pattern. If it's a name, then you can make it plural on this pattern regardless of how it appears, so there's no conditions for that. Then you have the broken plural, so Jama' al-Mukassar. So if there's a 3-letter noun, then there are many forms that it can take when it becomes a broken plural, and these are recognized and identified through sima' usage. For example, arajul or adaras or qulub. So there's no rule. If it's not 3 letters, then the plural will be on the pattern of fa'alil, like ja'afir, small rivers. Fa'alil, right? So if it's more than 3 letters, it will be on the pattern of fa'alil. Broken plurals can also be divided into jam'ul qillah, So this is when it's a plural word, but it indicates less than 10, or Jamal Kathra, which is plural of abundance. It's a plural word which indicates 10 or more. So as I've said, Qila refers to plurals that are 10 or less, and they have specific patterns. So جمع قلة هو ما يطلق على العشرات فما دونها وبنيتهم جمع القلة, and the construction of جمع القلة is أفعل, أفعال, فعلة, and أفعلة. Examples are here as well: أشهر, أعمال, فتيان, أعمدة. وجمع كثرة وهو ما يطلق على ما فوق العشرة وأبنيته ما عدا هذه الأربعة، ويستعمل كل منهما في موضع الآخر مع قرينة نحو قوله تعالى والمطلقات يتربصن بأنفسهن ثلاثة قروء. So that's just basically saying that جمع كثرة, so the plural of abundance, will be those broken plurals which are constructed from words which are more than 3 letters, that are not on the patterns mentioned above, and they could be, and these patterns can be used in place of each other. So for example, ثلاثة قروء, you look at this, means 3 periods. Well, not periods, but it means you could translate it as periods, but the point here is that the word quru is being used despite there being the existence of another form, which is aqra, which means the same thing, which is also jama' qilla. Then we have the masdar, so we're going to discuss that next time, inshallah. These are specific nouns which we will go into. But if you have any questions about what has been discussed today, please leave a comment or give some feedback in the comment section. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين.